This girl बेइज्जती को कोई असर नहीं है. Welcome back to another drama review. Today we're going to review 4 different dramas, and the first on the chopping block is the very popular Kabhi Tum. So far we're on episode 30 and 31 that just aired, and it looks like Adil still hasn't totally faced the consequences of his actions, but we see that Rabab is really realizing how far deep his lies and deceit run. She finally finds out and realizes that her best friend, or one of her best friends, Natasha, is involved with him in some capacity, or has been at least seeing him. The funny thing is the fact that Adil thinks that everything is going to be smooth sailing from this point forward because he has spent some time with her. He's taken her out on like one nice date and he thinks like, okay, I'm in the clear now. But what he doesn't realize is his world is about to crash and burn. Basically, Rabab has set up this big expose, I would say, because she's throwing a huge belated birthday party for him, and it's clear that she's going to be exposing him as well as Natasha during this whole event. And it's kind of sad for Adil, but he deserves it. And I still feel that Rabab did not deserve what she was going through, to have her business compromised and her trust, and also for her to be cheated on essentially. And the reason I say that is, even though she comes off very unlikable, that's I think mostly because she's in a totally different class. And I think if she was surrounded by, or if we saw her constantly surrounded by just like her group of people or her level of people, it probably would be like, we wouldn't single her out. They would all just be really pretentious and self-entitled. But it makes sense for them for the level that they're at. I'm gonna be honest, I'm very excited to see her expose him. I feel really bad for her still, but this is going to be like sweet justice and I cannot wait. And I would not be surprised, my prediction is still that he's going to end up in jail or in a lot of financial trouble at the bare minimum. He's gonna be left with basically nothing. And his parents have been invited by Rabab. I think they're in for a very rude awakening. I don't know how the dad is gonna handle it, but I think he's going to be like extremely heartbroken and disappointed, especially when I feel like she's going to clear the air that Mustafa was not the one that had stolen that money and that it was like planted or something. Like, I feel like that truth is going to come out at some point, and it's probably gonna happen, but I don't think she's gonna announce it, but it'll probably be revealed at the party at some point. His mom, Mustafa's mom, I think she's going to be extremely disappointed, but I think she will somewhat recover. But the fact that like Iqtidar, the dad, is not going to be able to hazm it in the same way, especially when he was so harsh, because at the end of the day he was the harsh one with his son Mustafa. So it's going to be a difficult experience for both of them. I don't know how they're going to manage or like reach out again to Mustafa. I can't be sure, but I did see in the preview that it looks like that Sharjina ends up in the hospital, so I feel like they might be able to make way to comfort Mustafa at least. But will be in a position where he'll feel bad about everything and still at the end of the day want his parents' love and support, and I think they will try to do that for him without knowing that he's now very successful. Now, in terms of Sharjina and Mustafa, they have continued to drift apart basically during the entire pregnancy, and it's clearly taking a huge toll on Sharjina. And the thing that I noticed is the fact that she doesn't seem to be going to work anymore, so it looks like she did listen to her husband and just decided to quit her job, or at the very least take a break or a leave or something like that, if that's something that happens in Pakistan. I don't know how it works there. It seems like she is now at home when he's going to work, which means to me that she has all this free time, and she still is refusing to go and see her family. And she's not letting her family know, or they know and they still don't think to visit her, because I think that's really unreasonable. Obviously, she's going to be even more lonely because now she has even less human interaction, and she's just stuck at home and she's unhappy, and she's probably thinking all day about how Mustafa is not trying to make amends and they're just ignoring each other, and it just seems like she's just making her own situation worse. And it's a little bit annoying. However, I will say that the crying scenes, like, it felt very realistic. It wasn't like I'm gonna try to pretty cry. It was like hardcore ugly crying. I am upset and I'm having a difficult time. I felt like they dragged it a little bit with the whole like showing like the echoing of her cries and stuff. I think it was for drama, and I think it was achieving what it needed to achieve, but I felt like it was like, okay, I want to see what's gonna happen next. Like, I get it, she's really sad. We've been knowing she's sad for like the last 4 or 5 episodes, so I was like, let's get a move on. But it was still like well done. And the thing I noticed with this drama and a couple of the other dramas is I feel like the way it's shot is so much more different than what I am used to seeing from like many years ago. Obviously you would think it would have evolved, but you know, it's not very static. Like, I feel like they try to do interesting angles where I actually notice now, and I'm like, oh, like I appreciate what they're trying to do. I appreciate the visuals a lot more, and they definitely did that a lot with the crying scenes. There's like the echoing of her cries and all of that. Honestly, it was sad, and it made me a little bit uncomfortable because it was really sad, and it was like, at the same time, like, you should just spend more time. Like, you now have more free time. Spend some time with your family or your friends or somebody. But she just wants to keep everything super bottled up and only wants to share it with Mustafa, like her concerns or worries or whatever. And it's like, I feel like she's being a little bit unrealistic, you know? And again, like, I do feel like Mustafa is trying. However, their argument and disagreement, he handled it very poorly, because he's just like, yeah, I don't want this kid or whatever. And I'm like, bro, like, she's pregnant, she's literally having a kid. Why would you say that to her? Like, he very poorly handled it, but he handled it in the way that Mustafa would handle it when he's stressed out, because he's used to just ignoring things or not dealing with things for so long. And for him to suddenly have to deal with all of this responsibility, like I mentioned in my previous episode, it's a bit much for him, and he's trying to manage it, but it's too much all of a sudden for him. I don't think Shajina understands this. And the reason I say that is because I think, like, when you're used to someone improving, obviously they're gonna plateau at some point, and then eventually maybe they'll go up and down a bit. Like, progress is never just like linear. Like, there are ups and downs, and sometimes you go really far down. When you're someone like Mustafa and you suddenly have so much responsibility and you're trying to do everything to handle it as eloquently as you can, of course you're gonna have some hiccups. Of course you're not gonna understand. And also, he's suddenly alone. He doesn't have anyone else to rely on. He doesn't have his family anymore. Even if, you know, they brush him off or they say he's useless all the time, like, there is comfort in knowing that you have your parents around, but they're totally alone. And again, like, they were living in a joint family system and now they're not, right? So it's a bit much for him to handle. He totally cut off his whole family, which he didn't need to cut off his whole entire family. Like, he could still talk to his sister at least, right? But he did that, and now it's just too much for him, and Shajina's not understanding that it's too much for him, and she needs her attention, and she needs more attention during this time, and he's not able to give it to her, and she refuses to get it from someone else, like her family or her friends, just like to coast at least until they stop arguing. So there's just a lot of miscommunication, misunderstanding, and all it takes right now is for them to just talk and just be a little bit sincere with each other and take some time for each other. Just like one day in the week would probably make this all better. They're just being like stubborn and trying to figure things out in their own ways, I feel. And I think in the promo for the next episode, it looks like she gets very sick and very ill. So I think even though towards the end of the episode, Mustafa is finally feeling like, oh, I'm successful, Shajina was right, and all of this stuff, and he's feeling really grateful for her, but he's gonna go home and probably find out like something's wrong, and he's gonna feel so guilty for all of that. So hopefully it all resolves. I think either we're gonna find out that she has miscarried or there's some sort of complication. I don't think there's gonna be a death. If anything, I can only think of Iqtidar, Mustafa's dad, getting extremely sick and maybe passing away from the shock of the betrayal of his oldest Gameab son, which I think he's already so down, so I would not be surprised about that. But I hope everything's okay, because I don't want anything bad happen to any of them except for like the Dill. I guess my only last comment though would be Shajina's parents. I feel like I mentioned before, I don't understand why they are not paying her visits. Like they're not in a fallout with each other, right? Of course the dad is very concerned about his daughter's well-being and the financial situation or whatever, but I mean, you could communicate with them, like you're not in a disagreement, or you guys didn't have a fallout the way Mustafa's family had with Mustafa and Shajina. So they could still be calling, they could still be visiting and give them that like emotional support, but they're not doing that, which I think is really, really odd. It's like a bit much. Like they seem like the parents that are gonna be there more for them, at least at this stage, than Mustafa's parents, but they're not taking any measures. Her sisters never visit. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. So I feel like they're just keeping them out of the picture because they want us to focus on the drama and make sure she feels very alone, like Shajina. I feel like that's a little bit unrealistic. Like, the mom would visit like at least once a week, right? And she seems to have never visited, and she's expecting her daughter to visit. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, you know she's pregnant, why won't you go? And also, one last thing, the elevator thing, like, they're like, oh my god, she's like pregnant and she has to go upstairs, there's not even an elevator. I'm like, so many people have to live like that. Like, and probably your daughter, or maybe even you, had to live like that at some point, because everyone starts somewhere. Like, they just started out their life, they pretty much just got married, right? And all of this is happening, and it's pretty common. I just don't understand why we're freaking out that she has to walk a few stairs, you know? And like being like, oh, everybody wants the best for their kids. I get that, but we all understand that they have just started out. And the only saving grace is like, maybe it's because they were expecting that they would be in a joint family system, there would be support from the in-laws, but realistically, we all know, and they would know, that most in-laws, especially the way her in-laws are, Shadina's parents know that they're a bit off. So if anything, it's kind of good that she's on her own and she just has to walk a few stairs. Like, she was having to do so much. So I don't know why they had to show that commentary. I get that they're worried for her, but like, just visit her a couple of times. It's not that deep. So that's what's happening with Kabhi Tum. But now let's switch over to Bismil, episode 17 and 8. The thing with Bismil is I am honestly so over it, and I feel like a lot of things I feel personally are blown out of proportion. I just don't think certain things are realistic. However, I did feel like the acting was like really good in certain areas, but so far in episode 17-18, basically everyone has found out about Masooma's second marriage, the fact that she is the second wife, that she went after a man that was married and established and happy in his own life. Tokir, Titi's son, basically exposes her at her father's funeral, and he loses it. Okay, there is just like a lot of emotions going up and down, so let's go from the beginning. Besides the fact that everyone found out about the second marriage, the other important things that happen are Masooma's father passes away, probably from like intense guilt and a heart attack. Tokir's son is extremely upset about what happens. He feels really betrayed by his father, and he just does not understand how he could come to this point where he would need to make this decision. And then eventually he finds out who he got married to, and then he's even more upset, and then he calls him out because he's like, it's not like he basically talks about how, like, you know, normally people do second marriages because of, you know, valid reasons, and he references reasons in Islam, but he implies basically though that the reason you did this was not because of those reasons, but because of basically lust, right? And he's just so disgusted with his father. Kind of love it, but I'm kind of like, okay, like, calm down a bit, because he literally threatens her life, and then goes to her house with a gun. Not with a gun, he gets the gun from the guard. He is ready to go and kill her, and honestly, I would not have been surprised if he actually pulled the trigger, but he doesn't, because he feels like he shouldn't have to suffer the consequences because of his father's actions. His father should, and the girl should. So basically the son is now going to, I think, play a little bit more of a role in the show, instead of just like, he's getting married on the side and that just keeps coming up, and no, he loves his parents. Now I think he is going to be a little bit more invested in making sure his dad is not happy or something of that nature, or at the very least Masooma faces certain consequences. He will for sure side with his mom. They showed their relationship and how close they are. He stays with his mom to support her, and it's so sad. We'll get to the mom in a minute, but I just want to talk about Masooma. I feel like this girl basically koi asar nahi hai. Like, constantly she gets totally annihilated by someone, like verbally abused and attacked for her attitude or whatever it is that she's doing, and it doesn't faze her at all. If anything, it just drives her to be more bad. And that's what's so frustrating, because at this point, when she gets exposed by the Sunn, the thing that I noticed with Masooma is she does feel like hurt. She feels it in her like heart. She feels the emotions. She feels very down. She feels upset when her father gets basted in front of her. But then she feels like, okay, I'm gonna now be worse, and now I'm gonna make them suffer again and again and again. But every time she does manage to hurt the other party, but she also gets hurt so badly. And now at this point, she has literally lost a parent from intense guilt and shame, and he was already in a bad condition to begin with. Now he's gone out of the picture, and the fact that she still is like, now that someone died in my family because of all of this, now I'm gonna make someone die from theirs, basically, right? And it's like, bro, like, you need to reassess, okay? Like, you need to chill. Maybe this is not the way, you know, you got what you wanted, and which was money, and then it's clearly not enough, but you need to somehow make it enough, because this is getting out of hand. At this point, I feel like she has nothing to lose, because now she has lost a parent, and on top of that, she has been ridiculed and embarrassed in front of her entire extended family and friends, whoever came for the father's funeral, because she got exposed at the funeral in person, and there's no hiding it. And now I think she's going to feel like, I have nothing left to lose. But I'm like, girl, you have a lot left to lose. Like, whatever's left of your dignity, something, I don't know. Like, I just think like there's a limit, and the thing that they're showing in the show is like she clearly has no limits. And I feel like it's kind of like gambling. The next time I participate in the lottery, I'll win. Not this time, okay, next time, and then your entire savings is wiped out. You've like lost your family, house, and everything, and you're like, no, but just one more time, and then you end up on the streets. It's kind of like that. So that seems like the trajectory that she is going, to be honest, and I don't know what to expect. And we see her childhood friend Zubi. He is there, and you can see he's kind of like disappointed, confused, and a little bit like, I want to say a little bit disgusted, from what I recall, at the fact that she went for a second marriage just for money. And I think he probably realized how obsessed with money she was when he realized that she pursued a married man, basically. Very sad. She got embarrassed again in front of him, and she just doesn't seem to care. But we'll see what happens. I don't know what to expect in the coming episodes. Now, on the other hand, I want to talk about Tokir's first wife. Let's talk about Raham. I felt so bad for her. Everything that went on, it was so upsetting, but I loved that she went in on Masooma. She made it clear that she knew that Masooma was gonna wreck someone's house, but she did not expect it to be her own. And she went in on her father, and honestly, I think she did that correctly. Like, felt bad, but it was like, yeah, like, what are you thinking? What are you doing? You don't, like, you're living the life. Like, it's kind of like you used your daughter as a tool. I didn't think she was gonna do that though, but I'm so glad she did. It was so sad to see how heartbroken she was. She literally like leaves the home, doesn't tell where she went. She's gone and is staying at her friend's house or something, and then she decides to return because she's like, I didn't do anything wrong. Why am I having to leave the house? Why am I having to suffer and continue to suffer when I'm not the one that betrayed? And I loved the fact that she points out the fact that it seems like Tokir is expecting her to just deal with it, deal with the consequences, and forgive him and not make a big deal out of it, and acts like he has been betrayed when... And honestly, the biggest thing is the fact that he feels like this is such an inconvenience for him. He seems to be so annoyed by all of this. That's the thing that I noticed. He's so annoyed and burdened by this inconvenience that now his son knows and his wife knows, and now everything is exposed. And I honestly feel like he did not want any of this to happen just because it was enjoyable for him almost that he was involved with this other person and his wife didn't know and his son didn't know, and he was even like teasing them like, oh yeah, like I'll just get married again or whatever. He's already done that. He's like been like, it's as if Raham did something bad to him, but she didn't. And like, it was just so like, his character is so unlikable. They tried to pit Masooma and Raham against each other, but Raham was just living her life. Yeah, she's like a little bit aggressive, a little bit bossy or whatever, but again, that status of people, they're gonna be like that. Masooma, as soon as she's gotten that status, you can see that she like this attitude or this thing about her where she feels like she's better than, and she feels like so good to be having these servants under her, going to just become like Raham, really. Like, you're not going to be any different, any better. The only difference is age and youth, really. They tried to pit us against her, and Raham was very unlikable. She did some things that I was like, okay, that's a little bit out there, but at the same time I was like, okay, that doesn't make me feel like that's more justified. First of all, it's never justified to treat someone like that or to go behind and break that trust. And they even show like Raham remembering you know, when many years ago, probably, when Tokir was more attentive and everything, and their interactions, and it was just kind of sad. Like, that's what it is. Like, you threw away like 20, 25, maybe 30 years of marriage. You just liked someone else and thought to act on it when you shouldn't have, and you did it in secret. And that's really, really heartbreaking, and he was just okay with it. So I really feel like he should suffer some consequences, but I think life is unfair. I don't think he truly will. His strategy was basically do whatever you want and ask for forgiveness later. I think a lot of guys tend to do that, to be honest, and that does not make things okay. That does not bandage even over the betrayal that you caused by doing that. You're still being deceitful and lying. So those are my thoughts for Bismil. Tokir is probably going to try to reconcile things with his wife, and I wouldn't be surprised if he like suddenly is like, oh, I'm gonna try to make everything better, and have to give even less attention to Masooma, and then she's going to be upset about that, and then she's going to try to get her revenge. I don't know what's going to happen. It seemed like Masooma was really distressed in the promo, and I think it's because of that. But what did you expect? Like, he's got so much history with this person, even though he did betray them, and that person, Raham, and her son are not going to be able to feel okay again in that same way. But at the end of the day, he is still gonna give them a priority. And the thing with Masooma is like, she's just this new exciting thing that he's gonna have to put on hold for a bit. Next drama, Iqtidar. I don't know how I feel about this drama, okay? So we are on episode 9 and 10. The new episodes are going to be coming out soon as well. And the thing with this drama, what we're seeing so far is that the Shah family is continuing to try to intimidate Meru. They're trying to be a little bit more aggressive, and Meru is continuing to honestly just blindly act as if nothing else is happening in life and trying to get justice for her brother who's passed away. My thing with this drama is I feel like every character is a little bit too much. The Chachi is like so mean, but it's like not subtle, so I don't know how her husband doesn't notice how she is, but I guess he's just okay with it. Her daughter, I believe her name's Rouge, she's also such a snake, and they clearly are just looking for a gap or trying to create and encourage a gap between Meru and her mother-in-law so that the rishta gets tujai, you know? And it's clear that that is actually happening. I cannot wait. I can't go in chronological order. Bijan is my least favorite person in the show so far because she's supposed to be like have a good head on her shoulders and like the voice of reason and a person of authority within the family, but she is easily spoon-fed these lies. And I'm sorry, it's clear that she is going to ruin her son's relationship with the person that he actually likes just because Meru did not show up on time to impress her friends. Look, Meru is wrong for not doing that. Circumstances changed for her, but she should have adjusted her schedule for sure. She should have prioritized that. But at the same time, Bijan, her brother just died. Like, you can't just be like, all right, just move on, guys. Like, that's what everyone, even the mom is telling Meru, like, just move on. Like, what, like, stop, like, dragging this. And I'm like, that is crazy. That is wild. They're just acting like, why are you so emotional, Meru? Everyone else has moved on. Why don't you just move on? Okay, clearly you weren't as attached to the son. Okay, what is going on here? That was the thing that's really frustrating to watch for me. And the fact that everyone's like so over the top and insensitive. And now, like, even Bijan's son, I forgot his name, even he is starting to feel like, oh, why isn't Meru like prioritizing all of this? And he's like, oh, Rouge, like, at least you're here, can you help out or whatever? And it's just like, oh my god. That said, Meru is really at fault for not trying to even understand the gravity of the relationships she has. She should be trying to put in effort, but she's just like, I don't care about anything, I'm just gonna get my justice. And I don't like that. I feel like it's a little bit too much. I do agree that everyone is extremely not understanding of what she's trying to do and the frustration and the fact that her brother literally just passed away. And then the Shah guy, I don't understand why you're so obsessed with Meru. It's kind of weird. And bro, if you are not into your fiance, just let her go. Why are you just dragging her along and giving her this idea that, you know, you care about her? Like, she's clearly whipped for you. And he even like says how he does not like that she's so whipped for him. And I'm like, bro, you don't like her. Let her go. Let her find someone that actually likes her. Oh my god. And her parents, his fiance's parents, they do mention that they are concerned, and this happens like in the earlier episodes, the fact that he, you know, is not willing to do an engagement, and then they basically trick him or force him into doing the engagement, his family does, because they need to show that he's at least a little bit serious. And I'm like, you don't like her, just say you don't like her and move on. We're dragging this thing, and he has this weird attraction to Meru, and I'm like, I cannot understand why they would be or end up together. It cannot like make sense to me. It should not happen, and I think that's the only reason I'm watching, to figure out how this shit happens, because it should not happen. The biggest takeaway I have from this show so far is how lightly people take relationships. Shah doesn't care for his fiance, and I think he's going to drop her as soon as he can, whenever he's frustrated or annoyed with her. Next is when that's gonna happen. And Shah's mom doesn't seem to care what he thinks, and she also like hates her other son because he's a loose cannon, but refuses to try to figure out what's going on or provide any like nurturing aspects, motherliness to him, to be like, hey, like, stop being crazy and getting us in so much trouble. Meru's entire family doesn't care about her or her feelings, for the fact that her brother literally just died, and she doesn't care about her relationships with her fiance or her mother-in-law, future mother-in-law. And I feel like this is like a thing with Pakistani people. Like, they have no, like, these relationships are so important. So much izzat and all of that, and emphasis is put on these things, on these relationships with your family and extended family, your in-laws and everything. But when it comes down to it, they don't care that much either. Like, I feel like Shah is gonna break off the Mangmi and not have an issue with it. The girl that actually cares about the relationship is gonna be extremely heartbroken, and what are you gonna do about it? Nothing, can't do anything about it. Just have to move on, because that's life. Like, that's the logic. Meru's relationship is also gonna get broken. She's going to be a little bit hurt, but it's also like, okay, whatever. Well, like, it wasn't official, but like, you kind of did make it official when you decided to get engaged and you were talking seriously and interested in each other. Or we're just gonna just accept the guy, probably because she really likes him, but it's like, you don't even feel a little bit off about the fact that he didn't like you that much and he actually liked your cousin a lot, and now he's just like going with you because you squeezed your way into his life and tried to show that you're such a good person, but really you're not, and you just take credit for other people's work all the time. Like, I don't understand. Okay, next drama. This is too much for me. Last drama is also a lot for me. Sunn Mere Dill is the last drama we're gonna talk about today. Oh my god, this drama, where do I start? Sunn Mere Dill, I am not enjoying this drama that much. It's really disturbing, if anything, actually. This drama is about a working class girl named Sadaf, and how somehow she's gonna be involved with this rich alcoholic businessman called Bilal Abdullah or something. I'm not enjoying this show. From the get-go, it was really uncomfortable to watch, especially the fact that Sadaf's friend or best friend Amar tries to confess to her, and she makes so light of it and she rejects him so harshly, and I'm just like, how can you treat someone like that? It just does not make any sense. She's like throwing water on him, and she's just being so cold and harshly telling him like, oh, just kill yourself or whatever. I'm like, how can you just say that to someone, especially someone that's been your friend for so long? Apparently, how? And he's just taking it. That's what's even more frustrating. You're just taking it. You're just so blinded by love. I'm like, I'm sorry, but she cannot be that great. Like, and he's just like, oh my god, I just love her. Oh my god. And I'm like, your friend, your other friend that you really care about, her name's Dania, I think. I think I missed the part where she communicates to him that she really likes him, and he's just like, yeah, I can't, I'm not into you, and if anything, like, every time I see your face, all I can think about is Sadaf, and it's like constantly breaking her heart. But I'm like, bro, she's so heartbroken and just keeps going and getting her heart broken more and more. She keeps finding out more information and it just keeps breaking her heart. And I'm like, bro, I think you really just gotta go to Canada, book that ticket and go. Oh my god. And with the Bilal Abdullah character, I do not like him at all. I like, you just saw the girl once for like a few seconds, you saw her side profile and you were like, yes, that's the one I'm gonna marry, like that's the one I'm gonna pursue, and that's one where I'm gonna suddenly not stop drinking and stop all my questionable activities, but I'm just gonna like control myself a little bit. And her dad is sitting next to me and I'm telling him that, and like that is just okay. Like it doesn't make sense to me. I really, out of everyone's acting, the person who's acting like the best was actually Sadaf's dad's acting. His acting was so good. The way he is trying to hide the fact that his son is sick, has cancer. He's hiding it from the mom, which doesn't make sense to me. You really got to communicate that to her. Maybe we can figure something out together. It's not a burden you want to take on your own. He does reveal it to the son, and the son tries to control himself and keep himself together. That was really sad to watch, to be honest. Everything that's going on, the thing I'm most interested in is just the son and the father trying to console each other and figure out and navigate this whole situation, because both of them have not told the sister or the mom. The rest of the family does not know what's going on, that he's sick and he just has a few years to live, I believe. But the acting that the father did, especially when he goes and he cries when he's alone in his room, oof, it was so sad. Just that alone makes me want to watch the show to see and figure out like what happens. Are they able to get treatment for him? Probably through Bilal Abdullah or whatever. I don't know. But okay, spoiler. In the promo for the next episode, I think it's implied that the father passes away. I am not okay with that. That was the most upsetting thing. From all of the shows I've seen that we're talking about today, that was the most upsetting thing. I was like, this is not right. This is not it. But apparently he might pass away, and that is what's truly heartbreaking, because all other characters I am not interested in. Even Sadaf's mom, like she's just like egging her on with her very poor, terrible behavior with Amar, and she also has terrible behavior with him. I'm like, the guy didn't do anything. There's no other issue with the guy. Clearly he is really into her, because despite all of that, he's still like respectful to you and the girl. I don't know. I don't think they deserve it at this point, and I think he really needs to move on and find someone that actually likes him, like maybe Dania. Oh my god. That brings me to the end of all the shows I'm watching, or this episode at least, of all the shows that I've watched. I'm so excited for the new episodes that are coming out this week. Specifically, honestly, I feel like the excitement has dimmed down a little bit, but I am excited still, I will say. Even when I say I'm not excited, I'm still pretty excited, because it's just interesting to see, because this is such a new world for me, because I didn't watch Pakistani dramas for so long. Let me know what episodes and what shows you guys are watching, what you guys thought of each of the shows, and which ones you're gonna continue watching, if you're gonna stop any of them, and if you think there are any shows I should watch next. Let me know in the comments down below. Check out my other reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next video.